Hello everyone and welcome back to Xbox Nation. My name is Fletcher and this is the video where we look at the upcoming releases for both Xbox consoles and Xbox Game Pass for this current week and to see if any of them are worth your time and money. We have a solid stack of titles to go through today, from some highly anticipated sport titles, some incredible online multiplayer games, more on that later, and some insane indie gems. As always, I'll give you a rundown on what these sort of games entail and if they're worth your time and or money. With that, make sure to subscribe down below for more Xbox content here every single day, and let's dive into the games coming your way this week. First up, and starting on the 8th of July, we have the release of Missile Command. And no, this isn't the game from a few decades ago, but instead Missile Command Delta, which reimagines Atari's missile defense arcade classic as a turn-based tactical game set in a mysterious narrative, and it leaves you questioning whether you're trapped in a simulation or truly defending cities from ultra attacks. It looks like you'll have to defend against waves of missiles from an unknown enemy using a battery of missiles, each with its own unique type, range, and explosion size. Usually, these sort of Atari releases do go down pretty well, and to be honest, I quite love seeing these new takes on those nostalgic IPs. Action-adventure sci-fi Metroidvania known as Somber Echoes will be making its way to Xbox this week on the very same day, and this is one that you definitely need to keep an eye on. This is looking like a pretty solid little Metroidvania adventure, and the art style is one aspect that particularly stands out for me. Upon doing a little bit of research, you'll play as Adrestia, blessed by the gods and back from the brink as you hunt her twisted twin sister through the rotting corridors of a massive spaceship. This all looks to be inspired as well by Greco-Roman mythology, and you can expect it all wrapped up in space dread, ancient sins, and divine wrath. It looks pretty awesome so far from the trailer and the footage that I've personally seen. I did look at reviews over on PC to also gauge some opinions, and it looks like a pretty well-versed Metroidvania that is recommended by many out there. I was actually a bit surprised by this next game, as it's one that has next to no fanfare at all, and there are practically no press insights out in the wild, yet the game does look pretty decent at first glance. The Last Camp arrives on the Xbox on the 8th of July, and this is actually a twin-stick shooting game set in a world that's gone to ruin. Yes, this is a Doomsday-themed game, but the actual world and the mechanics themselves look to be pretty solid. It has been noted by the developers that we will have to use technology and weapons that are left from the human world, and then fight various mutant zombies, evil predators, and giant mechanical monsters. It has also been confirmed that the game has 8 chapters and an endless mode, with the total runtime being around 15 hours. It looks like a pretty cool indie, but I'm a bit 50-50 personally on this one. That's due to the lack of any marketing or even games press, so maybe you'll just have to wait on this one for now. The Ascent has to be one of my favourite inclusions for Xbox Game Pass this week. No, it isn't a brand new release onto Xbox, and it's not a brand new release onto Xbox Game Pass either. Instead, this one is actually returning to the library for the second time, and it's a bloody good indie that I can't praise enough. If you don't know anything about this game though, it's essentially an RPG that blends twin-stick shooting with a cyberpunk aesthetic and stunning visuals. It is set in a corporate-controlled dystopia, and the game actually throws you into a brutal fight for survival. To make it out alive though, you'll have to upgrade your abilities, acquire some devastating high-tech weapons, and then battle your way through deadly waves of enemies. For me, the game's co-op mode is the absolute standout here, alongside the insanely over-the-top battles. I highly recommend it, and you should dive into it right away when it lands on the Xbox Game Pass this week. A title I hadn't actually come across before until the Game Pass announcement last week is set to release on the 9th of July. At first glance, it's clear that Minami Lane is a management sim, but after looking into it a little bit more for this video, it actually turns out to be a small-scale cozy experience centered around running a Japanese-inspired street. This one though is actually described as a short but satisfying game, and it guides you through a series of levels with specific objectives, like building homes, parks, and then different types of shops. You'll also need to fine-tune aspects such as product offerings to keep your residents content. Based on Steam reviews so far though, it looks to be getting a lot of positive feedback, and what really stands out to many though is just how polished the gameplay is, along with that charming visual style. It looks cute and cozy for sure, and you might want to give it a go this week if you want a palate cleanser from more other intense titles. I was lucky enough to take part in an exclusive console preview of Holdfast Nations at War a couple of weeks ago, and the reception to that video has been pretty great so far, so thank you so much for that. With that, the game is finally landing onto Xbox console this week, specifically the Xbox Series X and S, and it will be arriving on Wednesday the 9th of July, and I cannot wait for you to enjoy this bloody great experience. In this one, you take part in a Napoleonic war across a variety of different maps in 150 player multiplayer battles. These battles, I have to say, get bloody chaotic and really intense, but you can't forget about that humor that occurs every so often. The Holdfast community is what makes the game just so incredible though, from role players who don a terrible Scottish accent to some lunatics playing Barbie Girl whilst charging an enemy line. It's absurd, but in the best way possible. This is launching for a low price of just $20, and I will have my review of this one just prior to its launch date if you're interested. An exciting new indie title is just around the corner, and it's one that you'll want to keep your eye on, and it's called Greedland. This one is actually developed entirely by a solo creator, and this game blends roguelike mechanics with survivor-style chaos. Visually and mechanically though, actually calls to mind games like Vampire Survivors, but with its very own explosive twist. As you push through waves of enemies here, your character will evolve into an unstoppable, heavily armed force. What really looks to set Greedland apart though is just how much is packing from day one. You'll have access to a wide range of weapons, tons of in-game objectives, and a staggering kill count that can reach over 20,000 in a single run. Even better, it does support both solo play and local co-op, which is a refreshing option that you don't see often these days. The game officially drops on the 10th of July, and is one that I think you should be considering for sure. EA Sports College Football 26 is set to hit Xbox on the 10th of July, and is bringing some major upgrades to this series. Whilst you might notice the Game Pass icon at the top right now, the game itself isn't launching directly onto Game Pass. Instead, Game Pass Ultimate members will get a 10-hour trial at launch. So you may be wondering though, what's new this time around? Well, for starters, this new entry is introducing high school football, which adds depth to the entire experience and brings in a massive 2,700 new plays, 10,000 players, and over 300 real-world coaches. EA is also expanding the Road to Glory mode as well, and refining both player and coach likenesses. Naturally, there's the usual round of EA improvements that you kind of expect, from smarter AI, updated tactics, and a variety of polish that aims to make this a clear evolution over last year's College Football 25. Are you planning to check this one out? I've never personally gotten deep into any of these sorts of games, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this down below. I have quite a few games that I'm excited for this week, but one game that I'm really intrigued by and can't wait to add to my backlog is Islanders New Shores, and this is a brand new city builder. This is actually a follow-up to the critically acclaimed Islanders, but this game does build on the original's minimalist charm while introducing some expanded gameplay mechanics and new features. To give you a bit more of a brief idea though, you essentially place down different buildings on procedurally generated islands, and then optimize their layouts for maximum adjacency bonuses and then competing for high scores. It is a fairly basic premise, but the actual gameplay and experience under the hood can get pretty complex. The devs have mentioned this time that the game will include 44 unique building types, 7 island biomes, and a new turntable camera, so it looks like a welcome improvement on the old entry. I do recommend this series entirely, and I can't wait personally for the 10th of July. You may have seen me mention System Shock 2 25th Anniversary Remaster in another video of upcoming games a couple of weeks ago, and yes, this isn't deja vu. Unfortunately, the console version of this game actually got delayed really close to its launch day. However, it will now be launching onto Xbox consoles on the 10th of July. This one of course has been rebuilt with improved visuals, enhanced gameplay, and vastly improved performance. It is not only the most visually impressive version of this title to date, but it will also fix many of the issues the original game faced over on PC for years, and you can expect a pretty good experience. I have looked at the Steam reviews since this PC launch, and it has some fantastic reviews, with many praising this remaster, especially in the performance variety. It is definitely looking like a good pickup this week, especially if you're interested. I think the biggest launch for this week, and one that I'm incredibly excited to dive into, is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4. We've seen so much footage, played the awesome demos, and had so many more details prior to the release date, but the wait is almost up. Thank God. Of course, this entry is bringing a fully rebuilt experience of two of the most beloved skating games ever made, and I really can't wait to listen to that absolutely banging soundtrack whilst kick flipping once again. I don't need to state more about this game as it's been so widely marketed and just praised at this point. As with college football though, there is an early access period that will begin on the 8th of July for deluxe owners, and you can upgrade to that if you have Game Pass with the exact SKU on screen now. If you do want to wait though until it's out and hits Xbox Game Pass usually, the worldwide launch day is the 11th of July. I did mention Bendy and the Dark Revival in my Games for July video a couple of weeks back, and many of you were actually surprised to see this release as they already thought it was on Xbox consoles. Well, I do have to say, this has been out on PC for quite some while, but not yet hit the Xbox Series consoles, so you can finally dive into the thrills and scares, if you dare, on the 11th of July. In this chapter though, you'll play as Audrey, an animator who finds herself trapped in a twisted, ink-drenched version of her old studio. As mentioned, the game's already been out on PC for quite a bit and has earned strong praise, with many highlighting its atmosphere, storytelling, world building and sound design, and they're all improvements over the original. Personally, I will be giving this one a pass, but if you're into creepy, stylized experiences with some very rich lore, then this one might be right up your alley. Well, there are certainly some exciting games that are coming out this week, and I'll be keen to hear what ones you're excited for in the comments below. Whilst you're here though, remember to like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for more Xbox content as I upload every single day. Whilst you're here though, why don't you check out a video out on screen now, as I covered the huge Xbox update over the past week. There was a lot of news, good and bad, and I tell you what, it's a lot of news that you won't want to miss.